He is now facing felony charges of resisting arrest and assaulting a police officer. Winton's conduct Monday may well be the perfect metaphor for Miami City Hall. Together with Mayor Manny Diaz and City Manager Joe Ariola, Winton has been part of the troika running the city for years. And the trio has been drunk on power for far too long. They've taken credit for the city's financial recovery, conveniently forgetting that it was the oversight board that Governor Lawton Childs appointed nearly a decade ago that placed Miami back on sound financial footing. Winton, Diaz, and Ariola bought into their own hype, their own delusions of greatness. And it was that hubris that has created a host of recent scandals. The idiotic settlement over the fire rescue fee, botching the contracts on the Orange Bowl renovations, the stupidity of going into business with one another on a land deal. They let developers run roughshod over the city and its neighborhoods because they mistakenly saw the towering condos as validation of the city's worth instead of what it really was, which was a mad rush for land while interest rates were at an all-time low. Winton, Diaz, Ariola, they are the personification of the expression, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. They were lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time when they came into City Hall. But rather than recognize that fact, they became increasingly arrogant. And it's that very arrogance, that feeling of being untouchable, that got Winton into trouble on Monday. After having a chance to sober up, an emotional Winton came out of his house Tuesday and apologized for his bad behavior. It was the right thing to do. Nevertheless, the governor will likely remove Winton from office. And with the increasingly erratic Ariola being pushed out the back door, it now leaves Mayor Manny Diaz all alone. Will the mayor learn, or is it just a matter of time before Diaz himself climbs face first into that hard wall of reality? This is Jim DeFede, CBS 4 News.
All right, and if you'd like to contact Jim DeFede, send him an email at jdefede@cbs.com, or you can give him a call at 305-514-4106.
And if you'd like to check out any DeFede reports you may have missed, you can go to our website, cbs4.com, where the news is always on.
And that's our news for now. Thanks so much for joining us.
For Rob Hanrahan, Brian Norcross, and Jim Barry, I'm Maggie Rodriguez. We'll see you back here at 11. It's time now for the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer. Good night.
I'm Russ Mitchell. New England's worst flooding in some 70 years does tens of millions of dollars in damage, and more could be coming if this dam doesn't hold. So we'll begin in New England tonight. Then we'll cover these stories.
The president's border security plan gets support from some unlikely places, but it might not be enough. I'm Jim Axelrod.
Teens are smoking and drinking less, but a report says they've taken up a disturbing new habit. I'm Elizabeth Calladay.
And love for sale. I'm Anthony Mason with the love letters of Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio going up for auction.
This is the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.
And Bob is off tonight. Good evening. In New England this evening, there is hope on a cloudy horizon. The rain that touched off the area's worst flooding since the 1930s has finally begun to ease up. But after 5 days of pounding rain, as much as 17 inches in parts of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine, the floodwaters that forced thousands to evacuate their homes are still causing big problems. Sharon Alfonsi is in the flood zone.
In the wake of record rainfall,
this is just unbelievable.
A flood of misery. From the morning commute in Maine,
get it back in here. There's still probably about 10 more people at this house.
To a rush hour of another sort in Massachusetts, where now, after more than 16 inches of rain in 5 days, they're rescuing the rescuers. Juan Gonzalez is a firefighter, but today...
I'm just a victim of the weather. My house is underwater, and I'm just taking my family out of here.
And this is why. Gonzalez lives downriver from the Spigot Falls Dam, about 30 miles north of Boston. Part of it has already given way, and residents worry the rest could collapse and claim their homes.
Scary, not knowing, what the outcome's going to be, whether it's going to give or not give.
Engineer Scott Cahill fixes dams for a living, and he figures to be busy for a long time. A 2006 study by the American Society of Civil Engineers found the nation's dams are in disrepair and dangerous.
The eventuality of all this, if we don't get a hold of it, is that we're going to see cascading failures of large dams and significant loss of life across the eastern United States.
The only cascading failure Juan Gonzalez is worried about right now is this one, threatening his home and his family.
If that lets go, this is going to get worse, so I might as well just bail now.
State officials say they believe the dams will hold, but residents here are less optimistic.
It's not that they're glass half empty kind of folks. It's just that their basements are still half full. Russ?
Sharon Alfonsi in Massachusetts, thank you very much. For the first time since 9/11, the Defense Department today officially released its security camera video of the attack on the Pentagon. Here it is, frame by frame, as the hijacked American Airlines jet, hurtling just above the ground, slams into the southwest side of the building, vanishing in a fireball. Back to the top now in freeze frame. That thin white streak on the right is all that's seen of American Flight 77. It carried 130 people, including 5 hijackers. 59 more people died inside the Pentagon, 189 in all. Some of the frames from the video were previously leaked and circulated as stills on the internet. The video, which was shown at the trial of Zacarias Moussaoui, was released today over Pentagon objections in response to a Freedom of Information Act request. And with the 9/11 attacks, of course, began the war on terror, which includes President Bush's once secret domestic eavesdropping program, monitoring without a warrant phone calls and emails of Americans suspected of having ties to terrorists. Today, congressional leaders say that in a major about phase, the president agreed to allow the full Senate and House Intelligence Committees to review that program. There have been reports for almost a week now that also as part of the war on terror, major telephone companies were giving the government their customers' phone call records. But with those companies facing billions of dollars in lawsuits, they are now saying it never happened. There's a lot of confusion about this tonight. Jim Stewart's in Washington has sorted it all for us. Hi, Jim.
Russ, all 3 of the giant telephone companies that are alleged to have turned over millions of consumer phone records to a national spy agency now say they didn't do that. But their denials haven't stopped the firestorm. In carefully worded statements, Bell South, AT&T, and now Verizon have challenged a report in USA Today that said the companies gave tens of millions of consumers' phone records to the National Security Agency as part of the war on terrorism after 9/11. Contrary to the media reports, Verizon was not asked by NSA to provide, nor did Verizon provide, customer phone records, a company statement said. In response, USA Today said it will continue to investigate and pursue the story. We're confident in our coverage. The phone records were reportedly stored in the NSA's Mammoth computer system as analysts there tried to connect the dots between U.S. telephone numbers found on terrorist operatives captured overseas or numbers here that were dialed by suspected terrorists from their overseas locations. The New York Times had earlier reported the existence of an NSA eavesdropping program on international calls without warrants. Any collection of domestic consumer records would suggest the NSA program was far larger than suspected. President Bush today, however, insisted that no domestic calls were ever listened to without a warrant.
This government will continue to guard the privacy of the American people. But if al-Qaeda is calling into the United States, we want to know. And we want to know why.
One of the companies, Verizon, suggested they're not even sure they could help the government if asked. There's no record any longer for most local calls, they said, because customers aren't billed for them. Russ?
Jim, as we said, this story has been around for a week. By issuing these carefully worded statements today, are these companies saying, in essence, there is nothing at all to this story?
You get the impression that they're very carefully parsing their statements, and you also get the impression, looking at the body language of the intelligence community, that there is something here, although maybe not on the scale that USA Today suggested, Russ.
Jim Stewart in Washington, thank you very much. President Bush sought support today for his plan for dealing with illegal immigration. The proposals he laid out in an Oval Office speech last night drew an unusually mixed response today from Democrats and Republicans in Congress. Chief White House correspondent Jim Axelrod has that story.
An immigration reform bill needs to be comprehensive.
On the day after the president tied a good chunk of his remaining political capital to a bill calling for both tighter borders and paths for immigrants to come and work, Mr. Bush dug in deeper.
Now, in order to secure the border, it's important for people up here in Washington to understand that there's got to be a temporary worker program.
Talk about strange political bedfellows. Normally harsh critics like Ted Kennedy and Harry Reid are 2 of the president's strongest supporters in the Senate.
I have my differences with the president, but he's absolutely right.
I want the president to continue to be a player in all this.
While today, Senate leaders on both sides said they hope to pass a bill that embraces the president's middle ground approach, that alone doesn't solve Mr. Bush's problem. Any Senate bill would have to be reconciled with the House version already passed, and that deals only with stopping illegal entry into the country. Not the kind of comprehensive bill the president has in mind. It makes no provision for any path to citizenship for illegals already here. The president feels strongly there should be.
Never lose sight of the thing that makes America unique, which is we're a land of immigrants.
But many House Republicans call that amnesty for lawbreakers and warn if that's what the president means by comprehensive, forget it.
If he were sitting across from me right now, I would say, Mr. President, who do you hear from? Who is demanding a guest worker amnesty program?
A senior Republican staffer in the House of Representatives tells CBS News if the president's idea was to offer the Guard troops as a lure to get the House to budge on guest workers, then 6,000 Guard troops just may not be enough to get it done. Russ?
Jim Axelrod at the White House, where there's clearly a lot going on tonight. Thank you very much. It has been a positive trend in recent years. American teenagers are smoking less and drinking less than the teen generation that preceded them. A new survey confirms this, but it also raises red flags about a newer form of substance abuse, drugs found readily in the home. CBS News medical correspondent Elizabeth Caledon has details.
Supplying your kids.
There's a new enemy in the war on drugs, and it's lurking in your medicine cabinet. These just-released public service announcements are meant to be a wake-up call.
I think it's really a crisis. It's the biggest change in drugs that kids are using to get high.
Marijuana and alcohol abuse among teens is actually on the decline. But according to a new survey of more than 7,000 7th through 12th graders, prescription drugs and over-the-counter drugs such as cough syrup are getting American teenagers high. The survey shows that 19%, nearly 1 out of every 5 teenagers, report abusing prescription medications, and 10% are taking part in an alarming new trend, chugging cough medicine. Why cough syrup?
Well, because there is an active ingredient in a very good medicine called dextromethorphan that, taken in very high doses, can produce a hallucinogenic-like high.
Misty Fetko didn't think twice when she found empty bottles of cough syrup in her son Carl's car. But on a July morning in 2003, she found him dead in bed at age 18. A lethal blend of prescription drugs and cough syrup in his blood had caused respiratory failure. Now she's made it her mission to educate parents.
I think there are very few parents that are aware of it.
If they do think their kids are doing it, there's this sigh of relief. Well, at least it's not pot. How bad can it be? It's medicine.
And one of the other disturbing trends in this survey, Russ, is that it used to be high school kids, and now we're finding it's younger and younger kids, middle school kids, and they just don't think it's dangerous.
Very disturbing. Elizabeth Caledon, thank you very much. And still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, the Archive of Evil will show you a storehouse of Nazi documents opened just today, detailing the fate of millions of Holocaust victims.
My baby left for college. And for the mess he left, I needed a pain reliever for my back. Took some classes of my own and got something else for arthritis pain. Went high-tech and needed a headache medicine too. Every new pain, a different pain reliever. But now Advil is my every pain reliever. Advil works wherever I hurt, and nothing's proven stronger on tough pain. So whatever happens, happens. I'm all Advil.
Recently, I got a free brake inspection at my GM dealership. Turns out the place where I originally had the work done had put my brake pad on improperly. Mr. Goodwrench found a little thing that saved me from a big problem. Thanks, Mr. Goodwrench.
That's why we're here. GM Goodwrench, because who knows what's down the road.
I'm Anne, and I'm a GSK scientist. I just started Alzheimer's research when my grandmother was diagnosed. I wanted to hurry up and find a cure. We started working on ideas that no one else had tried, and we're getting closer. What I see in the lab is very exciting. What I see at last is hope.
GlaxoSmithKline. Today's medicines finance tomorrow's miracles. Fresh solution in bladder protection? Serenity Pads from Tena. Odosorb Plus helps prevent odors. And a unique soft top sheet with multi-inlets. Absorbs liquid faster than Poise pads. So Serenity feels dry, you feel fresh. For a free sample, call 1-877-GET-TENNA.
There's an easier way to freshen the whole room. Blade plug-in scented oil fan is the only air freshener with a continuous fan to actively circulate your favorite fragrance throughout the entire room.
Hello? Hi. I love what you've done with the place.
Thanks. Blade plug-in scented oil fan.
Freshness with a spin. Plug it in, plug it in.
Johnson, a family company.
In Iraq today, 3 more American soldiers died in roadside bombings, and attacks around the country killed at least 36 Iraqis. The worst was in a Shiite section of Baghdad. Gunmen shot guards in a parking lot, and when bystanders ran to help, the gunmen set off a car bomb next to an oil tank truck. At least 19 people were killed and dozens wounded in that attack. An international committee that maintains a vast storehouse of Nazi documents agreed today to open it to historians and scholars for the first time since World War II. The archive in central Germany contains detailed records of millions of Jews and others who were caught up in the Nazi death machine. Mark Phillips has our report.
It's the paperwork of persecution, an archive of evil. Records of the Holocaust kept by the Nazis themselves and kept largely out of public view here since the war. 50 million documents on more than 17 million victims. Finally, the remaining shroud of secrecy over these files is about to be lifted. These are Gestapo records, okay, of individual people. Chief Archivist Udo Jost says that until now, only family members tracing individual tragedies had access to these files.
Jüdische Frau, Konzentrationslager.
This Jewish woman was sent off to a concentration camp. Over the years, they've dealt with more than 10 million requests from families concerning individual Holocaust victims. There's a file here on each one of those requests, rooms full of them. What's changing now is that not just individual families, but scholars, historians, whoever, will be able to mine this mother lode of original Holocaust material. At a time of growing skepticism and denial about the Holocaust, that's no small thing.
When you have a situation such as we have today where the president of Iran denies the Holocaust, when you have the records of 17.5 million people and their fates recorded, including millions of Jews who were destroyed during the Holocaust, that's a very strong response to Holocaust denial.
Take just one case, Martha Lieberman, a young married woman in this photo, but in her 70s when, under the Nazis, she vanished.
I last saw my grandmother when I was 6, and that was in the year 1939.
Ralph Hemmecker wanted proof of his grandmother's fate. The archive provided it. A search under her name produced this file and this slip of paper. Martha Earl, her married name, on transport number BP 1053 in September of 1942. The transport that took her from Hamburg to the concentration camp at Theresienstadt, from where she was moved to the death camp at Treblinka, from which she never emerged.
She would have been dead anyway, of old age. But when you recognize the brutality of taking a 72-year-old woman.
Now the documents proving Martha's fate and that of all the others are being digitized so they can be accessed by computer. And the records here will be an undeniable public testament to the fate of millions and to the madness that killed them. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Bad Arolsen, Germany.
And coming up next on the CBS Evening News, our special series, Living with Autism. You'll see how this child's life turned around with the help of a new friend.
Introducing the ultimate buttery spread, new Smart Balance Omega Plus, with natural plant sterols and omega-3 from the sea to help promote healthy cholesterol and triglyceride levels. Omega Plus contains no hydrogenated oil and no trans fatty acids, with the right balance of fats for smart eating. Plus a delicious buttery taste. Try the ultimate buttery spread, new Smart Balance Omega Plus.
Cosmetic procedures? Why bother? For you, there's Olay Regenerist.
With its aminopeptide complex, you get significant improvement day by day. Using Olay Regenerist, you may find you've lost interest in cosmetic procedures. Also new from Regenerist, micro-exfoliating cleansing cloths.
I try to do whatever I can to take care of my health. It's a very big part of who I am. So when I found out I had osteoporosis, I knew I had to meet it head on. Then my doctor told me about Boniva, how it helps build strong, healthy bones to prevent fractures with just 1 pill a month. And I thought, hey, I can do this. Unlike other treatments you have to take once a week, I only need Boniva once a month.
You should not take Boniva if you have low blood calcium, severe kidney disease, or cannot sit or stand for at least 60 minutes. Follow dosing instructions carefully. Stop taking Boniva and tell your doctor if you experience difficult or painful swallowing, chest pain, or severe or continuing heartburn, as these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems.
If you're as determined as I am to have strong, healthy bones, don't wait. Ask your doctor if Boniva is right for you. I'm so glad I did.
Once monthly Boniva. There's only one. Ask your doctor for a free trial offer or call 1-800-4-BONIVA.
We're all under extreme pressure. Sales are flatulent. With floating costs, we won't pass the gas with Wall Street. This is a very uncomfortable situation. I've remained silent but deadly about this problem for long enough. It's time to let rip with a new plan. If we don't do something about our ballooning deficit, we won't cut it with our investors.
When you've got gas, it's the only thing on your mind. New Gas X Thin Strips dissolve quickly and relieve gas fast. Gas X, pressure's off.
This week we are taking a look inside the mysterious world of autism, the developmental disorder that affects 1 in every 166 youngsters in this country. No one knows for sure what causes it, and there is no cure, but there are therapies. And tonight, Steve Hartman looks at one that's having some remarkable success as he continues his series, Living with Autism.
11-year-old Parker Weisar is just about the most well-behaved kid you'll ever meet. Now,
who was this little boy before?
This little boy was just crazy, wild, outrageous.
You were?
Yes.
Parker has a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome, and one of the symptoms can be violent outbursts.
Caution, it is extremely hot.
Couldn't deal with it.
We would have incidences in the classroom where he would kind of clear off the bookshelves.
Parker's parents, Wendy and Mark, say they tried everything, but not until recently did they find something that really seemed to fix it.
Oh boy.
Almost instantly.
Some things changed right away and it was a little overwhelming. We'd like look at each other and go, oh my goodness.
What worked for them was Candy. That's the dog's name, Candy. She's a certified assistance dog whose job basically is just to be with him, to stick right there by his side, 24/7.
She helps me. She calms me down. She lets me know that she's there when I'm about to have a meltdown.
They got the dog about a year ago, and Parker hasn't had an outburst since. And that's just half the story. Kids with autism have a lot of other issues too. And for those, there's this. Dog agility.
Was that hard to learn at first?
Yes, really extremely tough.
Although generally the domain of middle-aged women, Parker's mom says the sport is also great autism therapy.
Candy and Parker, you're next.
You're doing speech therapy. You've got to get commands out.
Can you go jump?
While you're running.
Can you go jump?
And you have to keep your body in control when you don't have good motor movement.
You also have to learn how to handle disappointment. Especially with this dog.
What in the world is with you?
She's yet to actually finish a course, but Parker doesn't seem to mind.
Who do you think would benefit from having a dog like Candy around?
Anybody who has autism, anybody in the world would just benefit from it. She's just like a healing dog.
Healing for Parker. The idea is still new and unproven. But to this kid, on this day especially, there was no doubt his dog had some kind of magic. Remember how I said Candy never completed a course before? Well, during the last race, something got into that girl. Did every through, made every over, an absolutely flawless performance.
Over!
Candy not only finished for the first time, she actually finished first.
My gosh! First place!
And that's an autistic outburst they can live with. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Phoenix.
Yes, yes.
And Steve concludes his series tomorrow with the story of an autistic girl who found a way to communicate with the outside world and is now a college student. Still ahead tonight, Marilyn and Joe and the love letter he always carried with him.
V8 presents V-Fusion. If you think getting a full serving of fruits and a full serving of vegetables into a single juice is amazing, wait until you taste it. New V8 V-Fusion Juice. Don't just live, thrive.
Yeah, das ist good.
Introducing the unusually spacious Kia Optima. Now that's big. Right now, get a special introductory offer on the all-new Kia Optima.
The Astelin?
It could be allergies getting to you, but irritants can cause your symptoms too.
Astelin is seasonal allergy medicine, also approved for nasal symptoms caused by irritants like smoke and smog. These aren't.
For people 12 and over, most common side effects may include bitter taste, headache, nasal inflammation or burning, and drowsiness.
Don't let allergens or irritants do you in.
Ask your doctor about
Astelin.
Looking for a simple dinner? Just follow a recipe on Campbell's Cream of Mushroom, like our tasty two-step chicken bake that's done in 30 minutes.
This is good, Mom.
This is good, Mom.
Just came to me. Come home to a home-cooked meal with Campbell's.
Me? I'm a problem solver. There's a problem, I solve it. One problem I thought I'd solved? My acid reflux disease. I thought it was just bad heartburn. But when I went back to my doctor, he told me over time stomach acid had damaged the lining of my esophagus. He prescribed Nexium. Said I needed more than heartburn relief. My esophagus needed repair. Nexium healed the erosions in my esophagus. And one prescription Nexium pill a day keeps me healed and relieves my heartburn. So I don't just feel better, I am better. My doctor did say other serious stomach conditions may still exist, and headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain could be side effects of Nexium.
Talk to your doctor about Nexium and find out if a free trial is right for you.
Even the best problem solvers need a little help sometimes.
Nexium, the healing purple pill. If you can't afford your medications, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Tomorrow, a radical way to get drunk drivers off the road. Is it something you should consider for your family car? Find out tomorrow on The Early Show.
Finally this evening, who doesn't love a love story? And one of the most famous star Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe. Now memories of their love story are going on sale. Here's Anthony Mason.
Joe DiMaggio. He was the picture-perfect baseball player. She was the sex symbol of her age. The marriage of Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe would last a mere 9 months.
The nation's most famous newlyweds.
But it remains one of the most talked about romances of the 20th century. This week, DiMaggio's personal memorabilia will go up for auction in New York.
He kept a lot of things. He did. It's really uncommon.
Among the Yankee Clippers' keepsakes, auctioneer David Hunt found this photograph, inscribed, "I love you, Joe."
And this should bring about 50 to 60,000.
He also found Monroe's passport, signed Norma Jean DiMaggio, the couple's 1954 marriage certificate and divorce summons, and DiMaggio's wallet from the early 50s.
Inside the wallet, you pulled out this letter? Yeah, it was literally folded up.
In the note written on the back of a dry cleaning slip, Marilyn wrote, "Dear Joe, I know I was wrong. Don't be angry with your baby." In his 13 seasons in center field here at Yankee Stadium, Joltin' Joe became both a sports legend and a cultural icon, but at heart, he was a shy man. Under the glare of publicity, their marriage unraveled. After the divorce, in this small notebook, DiMaggio jotted down a list of ways to behave better towards Marilyn. 1, don't be critical, he wrote. 2, forget ego and pride. Don't forget how lonesome and unhappy you are, especially without her. By the early 60s, they were seeing each other again.
This is actually a telegram that she sent to him.
In 1961, Marilyn cabled after a scary plane ride. I thought about two things, you and changing my will. Love you, I think, more than ever.
What's fascinating is, to our knowledge, this is the only written documentation that they really were in love again, and were probably going to be married again.
But within a year, Marilyn was dead. DiMaggio would arrange her funeral. He never spoke publicly about their relationship, but the letters and photographs he saved now speak for him. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
It's very sweet. And that's the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer's coming back tomorrow. I'm Russ Mitchell in New York. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
For news 24 hours a day, click on CBSNews.com. Brought to you in part by Walmart. Walmart and Sam's Club pharmacies accept all Medicare prescription drug plans. And at the Walmart price, you get a great value for your prescription dollars.
This is CBS.
Searching for one great SUV? Hyundai has two. Announcing the Hyundai Challenge, where we challenge you to compare our award-winning Santa Fe and Tucson and save thousands over the comparably equipped Honda and Toyota.
Do the research, do the test drive. You owe it to yourself to get America's best warranty and check out Hyundai before you spend too much on Honda or Toyota.
Take the Hyundai Challenge today.
During the Hyundai Challenge, get a new Santa Fe with up to $3,000 cash back. But hurry, offer ends May 31st.
A local nanny nightmare. Hear Lauren's story tonight at 11.
Right now on Entertainment Tonight and The Insider.
Where in the world is Mary Hart?
I'm in London, England at Waterloo train station, and I'm taking only ET viewers on the Da Vinci Code Express with Tom Hanks.